Sawyer back again. Still interpreting Revelations 12, chapter 12, verse 1. And I want to talk a little bit more about that great or big, high, large, loud, mighty, strong wonder or sign, token, indicator. You know, it's like when they choose a word like wonder, to me it says a whole lot less than sign, token, indicator. Now, I'm not blaming anybody for not understanding that, because if they don't understand, if they don't know what word to choose, but wonder was not one of the, sure, it's a wonder, but sign, token, indicator were all keywords that were they not available to the translators, because those, I got those from Strong's, and wonder was one of the words too that was in there for the word that was listed as, well, maybe I didn't list it. Oh yeah, I did. It was S-H-M-E-I-O-N, or Samenon, something like that. And is an indication, especially ceremonial or supernaturally, a miracle, sign, a token, or a wonder. So why didn't they just put the first word that came up, you know, a miracle, you know, says a little more than wonder even, to me, and sign and token, and then if you go back to the origin of what they give you as a reference to 4591, which is from SEMA, S-E-M-A, it's a mark. And those are the terms that Doe used, actually. He talked about the comet Hale-Bopp being a token or a mark. And it's an indicator. It signifies something. So that's what we really see being said here about this woman, that what's appearing in the heavens, which this woman is related to, is a sign, a token, an indicator, and I believe that it's corresponding to what was said, and there shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. Now I think that that's the same kind of sign that they're talking about, even though this one from Matthew 24:30 I think is referring to a different time, but the next level uses signs pretty much the same way, and those signs are generally huge lights in the sky that, you know, fly and are seen as comets. And at the time when the woman was appearing was the same time as the comet Kohoutek had come to perihelion in 1973, in December of 1973. When Tian-Do actually started out was January 1st of 1973. And but what they always told us happened in December of 1973. They were in St. Louis, and they had rented the car using the credit card that was lent to them by a student, one of the original students, which wasn't really a student, but kind of like a follower at that time, because they didn't really have a classroom. They only had a few people that I guess they met that believed in them enough to want to help them. And one of them gave them a credit card to use, and that credit card was reported stolen by the husband of this woman, the woman that was like a disciple, an early disciple. And this was like in 1973, definitely was in 1973, because they had the credit card when they rented the car. And they were in, and Doe told us that they were in St. Louis renting this car, and then they had the car longer than they had paid for or whatever. I don't exactly know what happened there in terms of paying for it, but they kept on writing notes back to the credit card company saying that they would pay for it, and I'm not sure. They didn't go into detail about that any further, but they did say that they had written notes, a number of notes, back to the car rental company, not the credit card company, the car rental company, saying that they would pay for it, that it wasn't, they weren't stealing it. And I believe they felt like they were going to be able to pay for it somehow. But, and I know I mentioned this before, but what they said, well, Doe, when he told this story, and I think he told it at first in the 88 update, and he told that the story in the 88 update.txt, which is available on heavensgate.com. He said that the time in which they were declared to be the rental car company reported the car stolen was when Kohoutek had come to perihelion, which was the beginning of marking them as felons, which is what went against them in the press. And then, therefore, when Walter Cronkite came out in October of '76, he said that they found out who these two mysterious individuals were, that these 27 from Walport and from other places had left everything behind, including children, to follow, although that wasn't totally accurately reported. And then he said that they had a record, and Doe in particular had a record because he was actually, the charges had been dropped, but the St. Louis district attorney picked up the case, and because Doe was extradited to St. Louis to be charged, because they were apprehended in Brownsville, Texas. And the way they were apprehended was T and Doe thought they wanted to go to the press to say that they were the two witnesses and that they were here to fulfill prophecy. And this was already after they had been in Gold Beach, where they realized that they were the two witnesses in Gold Beach, Oregon. They had come back from there, and they were in St. Louis at the time, and then they went down to Brownsville, and they were trying to write a book that was going to be a new Bible. And that's when T made some updates to the existing book that she was writing, which never was published. And I have a chapter or two, because that's as far as she got. But in it, they went to the media basically to tell them that they had a story, and they did that by calling them on the phone. And they were in a motel at the time, and they called on the phone and said that they had a story, and the reporter thought that this was going to be a story about drugs, because they were on the border of Mexico and there was all kinds of drug trafficking happening. And so he contacted the police and told them that he had received a tip about a story